This next article from Newsweek, Richard Spenser backs Joe Biden, says MAGA slash alt-right movement is over. Dude, MAGA and alt-right are not together at all. White nationalist Richard Spenser said he will be backing the Democratic candidate Joe Magoo Biden in November's election after previously distancing himself from Donald Trump. That's because the right does not like the alt-right. The right is not racist. The lefties would like to tell you that the right is fascist, but that's because they're stupid. They're ignorant. They don't understand that left-right politics means communism versus fascism. Means it came out of the French Revolution. On the left, you have the flat social hierarchies, and on the right, you have the steep social hierarchies. The flattest social hierarchy is communism, where the number of tiers is 4. Never ends up actually turning out to be that way, but that's the idea. And then on the farthest right, you have Nazism, which is strongman ultra ethno-nationalism, where you've got a bunch of psychotic dictators trying to kill each other for a title of most psychotic genocidal maniac, which is why Nazism is bad. It says, if you read Mein Kampf, read it. It does not look bad at all. It's not thrashing Jews. It's not being blaringly anti-Semitic. It's saying there are problems with Marxism, and the Jews exemplify these problems. And then you read the stuff and you're like, all right, well, they're just competing to have the top most competitive. They're like number one. They're like that was actually anti-racism. This is the mind fuck that people get. They think that Nazis were racist. This is false. It's actually not true. In fact, you've actually been brainwashed by communists, actually. This is why I do WikiSpy, the tool to monitor wiki-like sites for tampering by hostile agents and political bias. It's because I discovered this. Nazis, the Germans never owned slaves. They were not a slave-owning society. Berlin, Germany, before World War II, was the most racially tolerant city in the entire world. Literally, it was. And it's because they didn't own slaves. They modeled their laws after Democrat Jim Crow laws to keep out the Africans, because if the Africans joined the war, they would have lost, and then Africans would have came and taken their land, and then it would no longer be Aryan country. It would be African country. Right? Duh. This is why he invaded Russia. There is so much stuff about World War II people don't know about, because our history has been whitewashed. They just want to tell you, oh, Nazis were just bad people because they hated Jews. It's like that wasn't why they hated Jews. It actually wasn't. They hated the Jews because they were Marxist and they were white supremacists. And at that point in time, pulling it out, the Jews had just committed the Holodomor. Hold on. The Russian Jews in control of the Russian military had just committed this Holodomor famine massacre that vast majority of people have no clue happened. They killed upwards to 12 million Ukrainians by starving them to death. And this was when the Russian Jews were in control of the USSR Soviet army. This was when the Marxists were running the show, and the Bolsheviks. And so after World War II, Stalin went and killed those people because they helped kill they engaged in this famine massacre. Because that's the way it works. When you help an authoritarian dictator annihilate a group of people, you are the next target of that. It is historically, you are now a threat. You now know how to take out the power structure, in which case you are now the next target, and they think it's justified because you went and killed all of these other people. So now it's okay for them to kill you because you're guilty, and they can put you to death. This is why you should never, ever, ever side with an authoritarian dictator, because they are horrible people They're never going to actually be on your side. It's always going to end up with you in a gulag or a concentration camp. But they want to tell you that the Nazis just hated the Jews because they were just scum pieces of shit. But this is not right. This is not true. They did not like them because they were Marxist who would not share. They only shared with Jews. That's why. And then they thought the gypsies were homeless varmints. That was disgusting what they did to the gypsies. I think that what they did to the gypsies was one of the most disgusting things about it, but nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. They only want to make it sound like it's just the Jews that were massacred, like nobody else got killed. But if you look at the total percents of the people, the Jews were only 5% of the deaths. And then they say, oh, well, people think they built the concentration camps to kill the Jews. That's not true either. Why am I talking about this? I need to tie it in. No, they actually built the concentration camps to kill political enemies. The Jews were one political enemy, but there were a lot more political enemies. They did not have any intentions of killing the Jews until the final solution, when they were starting to lose, and they thought that the Jews were going to commit a genocide against them. So they killed them because they thought they would kill them. Not just, that's a horrible reason to do that. That's horrible. Everything about that. Everything about World War II is horrible. But in Nazi land, everything is backwards. All of the signs are flipped backwards, and they all lead to the same place because it's authoritarian think. It's a disinformation campaign where they want everybody to go to the same place. These people were war geniuses. They knew how to do this. So what does this have to do with the article? I do need to be on topic here. Richard Spenser. Okay, we're on topic. We're talking about the white supremacist, neo-Nazi, white Richard Spenser. So I'm not on a completely rabbit trail. So Richard Spenser, who he was kicked out of the right, and then he went over to the left. Right. And so this is like people literally think that Republicans are racist because KKK vote for Republicans. This is completely false. There are almost everything that the left believes today is a lie, a complete lie through and through. No, KKK was started by Democrats. Democrats were the white supremacists. They opposed women's suffrage. They passed the 1994 crime bill that started the prison industrial complex that did not cause all of the police brutality that was actually pre-existing. And it actually was like cut, I want to say a third. I got to pull out the data. It was dramatically slashed. When they started a war on drugs, police brutality went way down. A lot of people think that the prison industrial complex caused police brutality. No, it caused a lot of people to get locked up because of the 94 crime bill. Before the 94 crime bill, hardly anyone was in jail for drugs. So the left, after they lost so bad after the women's suffrage debacle, they had to change. So they ejected the KKK, and then the KKK went over to the other party, the Republicans, because they were the party of free speech. It's so ironic how that happens. It's just like, really? We got such a whitewashed version of history. It's so funny because once you omit the details, the entire story changes. So Richard Spenser, he was on the right, and then the right burned him. And then what did he do? He did the same thing the KKK did. He went over back to the Democrats. Now he's backing Mr. Magoo, a.k.a. Joe Biden, who's running with Kamala the Snitch Harris. And if you're unfamiliar with why she's called the Snitch, you should look that up on the internet. She was involved in this incredibly shady scandal called the snitch scandal in California, and it's one of the reasons why people in California hate her so bad. But Kamala Harris's family actually was a slave owning family. So they picked the absolute wrong candidate this year. If you ask me, Kamala Harris was the stupidest reason that you could. Do we have that? Hold on. Did I close that out? Hold on. Oh, I did, didn't I? Shoot. I'm starting to talk about Kamala Harris. There was a recent Russiagate investigation put out a something recently. Since I removed the story, I'm just going to slip it into here. So there's they put out this Senate report, and they made it sound like this one's probably not what I'm looking for. One with the salacious headline. So let's look at the Forbes. Forbes is salacious. This one's absolutely fake news. So this article here from Forbes says Trump's business partners allegedly involved in human trafficking mafia matters, probable money laundering. And so this was released on the 20th. And I was made aware of it last night, and I actually was going to do a show on it, an episode or a segment on it. I'm kind of lumping it in with the previous one. So this is basically Russiagate. So you read this and you're like, oh, wow, they got new dirt on Donald Trump, right? And the problem with this entire thing is that it's just Russiagate. That the entire thing is Russiagate. It's the same Russiagate we've been going over for years. This is almost proof that the entire Russiagate thing was a scandal in order to affect the presidential election. If you look up who's on the, what is this, U.S. Committee on Intelligence, United States Senate, guess who's on this panel? Kamala the Snitch Harris. So Russiagate literally has Kamala the Snitch Harris behind it. Not even joking, dude. Call me out. Look at what they say. This thing is insane, what they're saying. So you go look at this. You look at what they're trying to say, dude. And they're trying to say that Donald Trump was doing the Miss America pageant, and that he had talked with some Russian business person, and then they planned on building a building in Russia, but it never happened. And Donald Trump talks about stuff like this with people a lot, and he doesn't know the full background of the person that he talks about this, but he'll meet a new business person and they'll be like, we could work on this project. And then a lot of times it's just like some BS that they're getting to know each other. But in this particular situation, he had the person that he was talking to at this Miss America pageant was involved in he was a Russian oligarch billionaire. And which one was it? The first guy up here, Felix Sater. And then they're saying, they go into detail. If you actually read this article and the correlations between that they're making here, it's like, okay, this is insane that you would actually like put this in a news article. They put this top is an incredibly salacious headline. Like this is telling you that there's that they found new information, right? That's basically they're trying to convince you that they found new information. So let's look at what does Forbes have. Look, another 95 out of 100. 95. NewsGuard is so fake. Look at this. Trump's business partner allegedly involved in human trafficking, mafia matters, probable. So they're business partners of his, right? Only that's not true. They talked about being business partners, but they weren't business partners. These people are liars. Read the stuff at the bottom. You'll see these connections are a lot more innocent than they let on. So if you read the Senate report, they say, let's jump down here into the what Kamala the Snitch Harris said. Well, I gotta go to the page. I can't just use the find and search. It's 943. So it says, here's the additional views of Senators Heinrich, Feinstein, Wyden, Harris, and Bennett. Boy, these are... this is a cast of corrupt as fuck Democrats right here. It says, almost 4 years after the U.S. 2016 presidential election, the committee has now published the bipartisan results... and bipartisan, give me a fucking break, dude. Of the investigation of the Russian government election interference and efforts to aid Donald Trump's candidacy. The committee's work product is voluminous, fact-oriented, I would say opinion-oriented, and essential reading for all Americans, but the committee has not sought to draw overreaching conclusions on its investigation, opting instead to let the reader determine the significance of the events. What a bunch of slime ball ass motherfuckers. Let's decode what the scumbag ivory tower liberal pieces of shit said. They said there's no correlation here between Trump and Russia, but we're going to make it sound that way and let you come up with the conclusion, because our conclusion was that this didn't actually happen. But that's not the conclusion they want you to think. They want you to just see, oh, Russian mob connections. And no, what percentage of people is going to look into this? I only looked into this because somebody on Facebook asked me to fact check it. In fact, if you want me to fact check any articles, you should follow me on Facebook and Twitter at RSS Commentary on Twitter and Cale McCullough on Facebook. So this is just infuriating. They put this out specific. They waited to put this out until before the election. That's how much of a scumbag piece of shit these Democrats are. They literally are trying to use Russiagate to influence the 2020 presidential election. It's so irritating. Let's go back to the Spenser article here. Spenser, who is one of the figureheads of the alt-right movement, tweeted he's now on Team Joe on Monday, adding in a self-made campaign slogan, liberals are clearly more competent. Wow. In a series of tweets, Spenser further explained his reasonings for backing Mr. Magoo. Quote, the MAGA/alt-right movement is over. I made mistakes. Trump is an obvious disaster, but mainly the paradigm contained flaws that we're now able to perceive. And it needs to end, Spenser wrote. So be patient. We'll have another day in the sun. We need to recover and return in a new form. And so what that says is the right hates him. And so now he's going onto the side of people that will not hate him. The people who are the white feminists. White feminism, if you're unfamiliar with it, a lot of people are. It's actually detestable. White feminism is a racist version of feminism where they promote white women's issues over everyone else's. So this thing is going to say, this fake news from Wikipedia is going to tell you that white feminism is focusing on white women's issues above. Hey, they changed it. look, they changed it. This is a change. So they've said focusing on white women's issues over minority women, and but it's actually everybody's. Because if you're gonna focus on feminism, if you're like a real feminist, you're actually trying to do it to make the world better, and you think that it's going to be a better system when we have these fundamental inequalities addressed. This is a lot like communism and Marxism. Yeah, it sounds great on paper. If it actually was like that, I'm completely in. Most people think I'm more feminist than most feminists. So, but the problem is in practice, it doesn't actually happen like that. The women women, if you're unaware, women control 85% of consumer spending, and they own 2/3 of the wealth in the United States. They're holding almost 2/3 of the college degrees. So a woman does not want to work harder than her man. A woman wants her man to work harder and longer than her. And they typically won't date you unless you have a nicer job than them. If a woman puts off having a baby until her 30s, then it will kill off her genetic line, in which case she could have had, during that period of time, she could have had 3, 4, 5 babies. So you could have had 2 male workers during that period of time where you had the 1 female worker, right? So let's say that a man puts off having a family until his 30s so he can be in a good financial position. That man is going to be able to afford a family, and he will have a family because of that. On one side, you have the best case scenario. On the other side, you have the nightmare scenario where your family line dies off. So I don't support feminism for a number of other reasons beyond that, but I've found that one to be extremely compelling, and I've never had a feminist argue with that. Never. If you find any feminists that will argue with that, comment realsimplenews.net/issue 90 or at RSS commentary on Twitter. So the white feminists, this is why he's going back over to the Democrats, is because they're all about racism. Richard Spenser's all about racism. Richard Spenser's all about being popular and having people like him. In another tweet, Spenser added, "I will never flip on my fundamental principles. My principles were never voting for the lesser of the two evils or stopping big government." Walking into certain defeat, even death, is not heroic. It's foolhardily. I have no sympathy for martyrs. I admire winners. I'm just a little bit confused on this guy. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think those alt-right guys I think that they kind of got taken advantage of. From what I've seen on the internet and from my experience with people who would watch some white nationalist stuff, because I did have a friend who was a DJ friend, and he was a good friend, and he did actually watch some that Red Ice Creations thing. I've only seen it a couple times, but they're definitely white nationalists. I would definitely classify those people as not good. They would be in with Richard Spenser. But from my experience with these people, it definitely seems kind of like they were like pretty beta, and they wanted to be alpha, and they engaged in this hate stuff on the internet because the other people hated them so much, and this caused their lives to get destroyed, and then they hated the other side because of this. And you have to have some compassion for that, because that's cancel culture right there. I'm not trying to justify any of the atrocious stuff that they believe. I don't think that I think most of the stuff about them is kind of overblown. It's not, not really reality. They're like, oh, well, they did that one Unite the Right rally where that one guy hit Heather Heyer and killed her. Like, okay, so the entire movement is now guilty for the actions of one person? All right, so then by that logic, then all African Americans are now guilty for the murders that a very small sliver of the African American population commits. Obviously, that's not true. Obviously, we would have to have other groups of people who the road rage doesn't happen with in order to say alt-right is bad for the actions of one person who hit somebody in a car in a road rage incident. But the problem is that Democrats engage in road rage all the time. Dude, they're horrible about raging and then wanting to F people up. The Southern Poverty Law Center describes Spenser as a suit and tie version of white supremacists of old. So let me get this straight. So white supremacists used to not wear suits? But these people live in a parallel universe. Spenser first rose to prominence in 2016 after shouting "Hail Trump" and being greeted with Nazi salutes at an event in Washington shortly after Trump was elected. However, Spenser said earlier this year that he regrets voting for Trump following and killing the Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. So obviously, Spenser's into Nazism. Nazism is National Socialism. National Socialism is a form of liberalism. It's now they want to say that Nazism is. They want to say that Nazis aren't liberal. This is fake. This is completely fake. Nazis were 100% liberal. No, they said, oh, they reject modernism. What did they say? Look, Nazism rejected class conflict-based socialism and economic egalitarianism. So what they said, class-based socialism. Yeah, so that's what they said. Economic, look, right here, proof, right here. They wanted economic egalitarianism. Hello. Favoring instead stratified economy with social classes. Oh, wait, no, it said they rejected class conflict and economic egalitarianism in favor of stratified economy with social classes based on merit and talent. Okay, right. But no, this is what they were saying. They were saying, basically they don't understand Marxism. They don't understand why communism was bad, that it makes a flat hierarchy, and that you will get one group of people, the Jews at that time, will bias everything towards their in-group, and then they will come up, and then everybody else will be poor. So that's what they did not support so you think these people didn't they didn't want people to be equal, so that means they weren't liberal. No. They believed that you would be equal by competing. That was the equality, was that you weren't going to be pushed down to the bottom of the social pyramid through capitalism, and that instead you would be able to compete for the top slot. And that's why people supported it, because they thought that was a good thing. What does this have to do with Richard Spenser? So Richard Spenser the Republicans are the antithesis of this. Everything about National Socialism is the antithesis of everything that Republicans stand for. We are hardcore capitalist. Nazis were anti-capitalist. We believe in competition through capitalism, which is you could kind of say would be kind of like what they thought. But essentially what they did, they said retaining private property rights of national solidarity that transcends class distinction. What does this have to do with it? So it's Richard Spenser that we're talking about. However, Spenser said earlier this year that he regrets voting for Trump following the killing of Salami. Spenser feared that Trump's approved airstrike, which resulted in the deaths of Salami, brought the U.S. to the brink of war with Iran. Quote, I deeply regret voting for and promoting Donald Trump in 2016, Spenser tweeted. Quote, to the people of Iran, there are millions of Americans who do not want war. They do not hate you, and who respect your nation and its history. After our traitorous elite is brought to justice, and we hope to achieve peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness, he added. Spencer also led a protest against Trump administration's launching a strike on Syrian airbase in 2017. So this guy's obviously on the opposite side of America. Like, this guy supports Salami and Iran and credited with creating the term alt-right. Spenser was also one of the main organizers of the neo-Nazi Unite the Right rally. I'm going to push back on that. It wasn't a neo-Nazi rally. That's completely fake. That wasn't true. It was a rally against illegal immigration, and some neo-Nazis came and took over. It was not a far-right event. It would have just been classified as a right-wing event that then was taken over by the far right, which is different than saying it's a neo-Nazi rally. Because if it was a neo-Nazi rally, it would have started out as a neo-Nazi rally. But before that thing had even started, it was an anti-immigration rally. It was a rally against illegal immigration. Sorry, not an anti-immigration rally, because there's mix-ups on whether or not if you support immigration restrictions that makes you far right. That's not true. A lot of Democrats would actually endorse a complete immigration freeze for 10 years. It's very true. I've spoken to a number of people who've on the left who have actually said that they would agree with an immigration freeze, because I speak with this about a lot of people, because this entire thing about white nationalism is bullshit through and through. So let's look up why it is bullshit. So great replacement. This is what you have to know. This is one of the most atrocious fake news articles from Wikipedia. This great replacement article. And this is what motivated the Unite the Right rally and Steven Spencer. So this fake news article from Wikipedia about the great replacement theory, it says it's a white nationalist far-right conspiracy theory that states with complicity or cooperation of replacist elites, the white French population as well as white European population at large is being progressively replaced with non-European peoples, especially Arab, Bedouin, Sub-Saharan Muslim populations in Africa and the Middle East, through mass migration, demographic growth in Europe, drop in birth rate. Scholars have and then it talks about sub-replacement fertility, links to this, and said sub-replacement fertility is a total fertility rate that it leads to each new generation being less populous than the older previous ones in a given area. In developed countries, sub-replacement fertility is any rate below 2.1. Man and woman, they need to have 2 children in order to continue the population, but 1 in 20 of them is going to not have children, is basically where that number comes from. But the threshold can be as high as 3.4 in some developing countries because of higher mortality rate. So that would explain, like in some of these African countries, there's a birth rate of like 5 or 6 people per woman. And so it's causing an oversupply of labor there, and it's causing them to be caught up in poverty. So obviously, this one is not some white supremacist myth, right? Like you read through this and you'll see that obviously this is a physical fact of reality. Man, woman has to have two children in order to continue on, right? If you don't have that, then you're going to your birth rate, or your population's going to dip. So they want to tell you, right? So let's look down. So supposedly you read the top. The top's supposed in if you aren't a wiki contributor, because I am a wiki contributor, the top of the wiki article is supposed to summarize the body of the research. Oh, looks like I had a camera freeze. Sorry, here, let me deal with the camera. This is so irritating, man. I'm almost there. Almost there. I'm here. Let's. I'm almost there. I'm literally just about to play it back on. I'm going to get a hardware unit. This was the Camlink 4K. This one's supposed to work. I've been using some cheaper ones. Then none of them work. This is OBS is just buggy as shit. If you enjoy this content and you want to make the show work better, I've dropped thousands of dollars into the show and I bought equipment that's really buggy. If you want to make a donation to the show, you can do so at realsimplenews.net/donate. You can donate via PayPal. I'll open up other methods to donate to soon, like by mail and Bitcoin. So let's see. Back to the article, what we're talking about, great replacement. So you go down and you look at the top of the thing is supposed to summarize the body of the research down below. And so what they did, here's the trick that they did. They started calling it white genocide, and then it was emotionally charged. So when you say great replacement, this isn't emotionally charged. It's not. You say white genocide, and now all of a sudden it becomes extremely emotionally charged. So let's go look at what they say about America, because supposedly it's a conspiracy theory, right? So it says in 2017, and it also, this has been going on for decades. It's nothing new. It's been going on for a long time. But you'll see here, the first thing they say here is in 2017, white supremacist protesters at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, used slogans that alluded to similar ideas of ethnic replacement, such as "you will not replace us." And what is the problem with this? The problem with this is that it's in 2017. That was 3 years ago. That was very recent in terms of the world. So let's look at the data that completely debunks the wiki article. Here's the graph of, sorry. So here we can see there's the top here, we can see annual growth. This came from the Metropolitan Policy Program at Brookings. So there's annual growth, total minority and white populations, 2018 to 2060 projections. These are from U.S. Census Bureau. Shows you the source down here. From 2018 numbers, so they're recent. So this shows you that there's going to be a birth rate dip from here's minority growth down to here's at 2 and then go down to that one's going down to 1. Hold on, that's going down a whole 1. And then for the white people, you start, here's 0, and then you could see it goes down almost it goes down pretty much 0.5. So the white people's birth rate in the Americas is 1.6. So if white people's birth rate goes down 0.5, your only child. Replacement's 2.1. So if you look over here at the next graph, it shows U.S. population 1900 to 2016 and population projections 2017 to 2060 by immigration scenario. And what you can see is that if there's no immigration, here at this bottom one, we would have about 319 million.7 people, which is less than we have today. That would be 10 million people less. So the second lowest here is the low immigration, or hold on, sorry. The lowest immigration scenario we would have about 376.2 million people. We would add like 46.2 million people. That's a lot. And the high immigration scenario, which is what the Democrats want, is 446 million.9 people, which is insane. That's a lot of people to pack in. So obviously you can see that the birth rates have dipped, that the population is dipping, and that if we don't enforce our immigration laws and we don't restrict immigration, that our people will indeed actually be replaced by Latinos. And the reason for this is because the feminists are putting off having a child until their 30s, killing off their genetic line. And you can't talk about this. This is why it's on the dark web. This is why this is an intellectual dark web show, is because these things only exist on the dark web. And you're not allowed to talk about it because the Democrats are complete cucks. They don't want you to know. They're incapable of pleasing their wives enough so that they don't go and hang out at the workplace all the time. So they have to not enforce our immigration laws so that they can keep up their supply of cheap labor and the increase in the number of customers, because the Democratic Party is extremely corrupt. They're controlled by corporations. And their primary voter base is white feminists, and they can't tell you the truth because this would completely destroy their entire ideology. You would say, okay, well, yeah, you made it fair, but then our people died off. That's absolutely not fair in any way, shape, or form. This is not liberal at all. This is illiberal. This is Nazi. This is only a Nazi, only somebody who is hardcore Marxist, cultural Marxist, would actually endorse for this high immigration scenario. Because, like, let's imagine that you're a Latino and you're moving to the Latino means, if you're unfamiliar, Latino means that you immigrated from Latin America to America. It does not mean Latinos aren't a race of people. Latinos might be black, they might be Asian, they might be white, they might even be albino. But the fact that they moved to America is what makes them a Latino. In South America, they call them by where their country. They call them Colombians, Brazilians, Argentinians, etc. But here in America, they think they're all the same. So let's just think, okay, if you're unfamiliar, I go over these stats a lot. 56% of illegal immigrants come from Mexico. Here's a graph here. We can see the total share of the immigrant population down here. So we can see most of the people coming in are Spanish speaking. 43% are Spanish speakers. And then about 25% of the immigrants are from Mexico. About 25% of them are from South America. Like 30% are, I can't tell exactly where that's at. That's another 25% are from, now don't ask me what this white thing is over here. There's a little space. If you notice that, if you do know what that is, comment on realsimplenews.net/issue 90. And then at the top, we got Europeans. And so the illegal immigrants are 56% Mexicans. 4 in 5 border crossers get through without being caught. There's 20 illegal immigrants per homeless person in America. Almost 11 of them are from Mexico. So, hold on, what was I talking about? So, when these people that they're bringing in, they're literally trying to replace you with Latinos because the Latinos are voting mostly for Democrats. So you look at the demographics of. Hold on. Sorry, trying to get out the right article here. I'm a little bit off. Here's a Pew article. Hold on, no, that's not the right one. Damn it. It's not Democrats. It was. Damn it. Voting. Yeah, this is the one. All right. Sorry. Wasn't alphabetically sorted there. So we look down here. We can see who's voting for the Democrats and who's voting for the Republicans. This was the 2016 election results. So we could see these are the groups of people voting for the Democrats. Hispanic men, 2/3 of the Latinos are voting for Democrats. Shows 28% voting for Republicans and 98% of black women. Wow. So apparently almost all black women are brainwashed Democrat drones, according to this graph. Black men, 81% of them. Now, only 1/3 of black people are actually liberals. It's not. Most of them are actually pretty conservative. They're actually just voting for Democrats because they think they're good, that they're trying to work for them. But the Democrats they don't care about black people. They just want you to vote for them. They're just giving you lip service. So that's why they want to replace you with Latinos, is because they vote for Democrats. And because that's the only way that they can get what they want, is they can get some Latinos from a socialist country or Mexicans who want to make it so all of their family from Mexico can illegally immigrate over. And this is why Richard Spenser supports these people now, is because Richard Spenser is the enemy. He's on the opposite side. He's always been the enemy. And this right here is racism. This is structural racism. Whenever you have a law that disproportionately affects one group of people, one race of people, then that in the United States is classified as a racist law. So this particular immigration law is when you put in this high immigration rate, what you end up doing is you end up replacing the natives with people from outside of the country. Most of them turn out to be from South America and Mexico. And there's only like, what's that, like 15% of the world's population is getting 50% of our immigration. That's not okay. So the Republicans are fighting this. The Democrats want to cancel you if you talk about this. They want to shut you down. They want to label you as white supremacist for doing what everybody around the world does, which is enforce their immigration policies. There's hardly any countries in the entire world that don't enforce their immigration policies. Nobody out there is trying to bias anything, everything towards people outside of their country, except for the United States. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, but one of them is because China is manipulating Wikipedia, and Newsweek is controlled by China. Read through Newsweek and you will see pro-China propaganda left and right. In fact, I even have a pro-China propaganda article here for us. I'm taking too long. I do have to pee, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to go through the rest of the articles quicker. So you have to ask yourself the question, what exactly is the difference in between enforcing your immigration laws and white nationalism? Right? Because they're saying white nationalists. What does it even mean to be a white nationalist? White nationalism is a type of nationalism or pan-nationalism which espouses the belief that white people are a race Really? We're not a race? And seeks to develop and maintain a white racial and national identity. So what they're saying basically is that that it would be a white country. So there's two different ways. So there, white nationalism has been used by KKK. Definitely a lot of bad stuff in it. But so it is saying that this country is like a white nation, and I don't support that at all. I think it's a multicultural nation that has mostly white people in it. I support the mostly white people not getting harassed because they're white and not having their country taken away from them because they're white and they're racist. They want you to think you can't be in control of your country because you're racist because of some KKK person who believed in whites only. And so they want to say that that is the same thing as the Great Replacement, which is not the same thing. Saying that this is a whites-only country is night and day different than saying our birth rate's really low. If we don't do anything about it, we're going to end up with a nightmarish situation where here's the UN projected regional population projections 2050 to 2100. You can see Africa's birth rate is crazy high. They're like exploding. Asia is incredibly overpopulated. So like we can't just let all of those people move here. But this one, it's obvious that this is not white nationalist. This is showing you if we don't do something about immigration, your family will not be able to control America anymore. And this is not just white people. This is also black people. This is Asians. This is Indians. This is everyone. These are Americans. But they say it's white nationalism. But this is not that. No, whites only. A white only country is night and day different than we have a birth rate. If we allow unlimited immigration, we'll be replaced. That's common sense. That is life and death. That's your family's ability to reproduce and your family's ability to ward off the globalist community that is trying to take everything out of our country. If the globalists could take every single thing that we had, they would do it. Anybody in the world, not just anybody, any group of people living outside of America would take everything we have if we don't stop them from doing that. So in order to stop them from doing that, we have things called immigration laws. If we don't enforce the immigration laws, our neighbors will slowly annex our territory. Mexico will send illegal immigrants over here like they do, massive swarms of them, thousands at a time, and then they'll eventually slowly take over California and Texas and Arizona, and then they'll annex it. Eventually, they'll become larger than us because they move up. So right now, they have 150 million people. We have 330 million people. But if they start to creep up in Southern California along Texas, then they're going to have as many people as us. They can go to war with us. That could kill millions of people if we don't protect our borders. It's common sense. 4 in 5 of these border crossers are getting through. 20 illegal immigrants per homeless person. Almost 11 of them from Mexico. If we don't enforce our border laws, then it biases illegal immigration towards Mexicans. You, as a Brazilian or an Argentinian or a Colombian who don't illegally immigrate in mass numbers to the United States, does not help you to support illegal immigration because it creates a permanent underclass of people. The Latinos get lower wages than everyone else, and that's because they've become a permanent underclass because the education difference and the difference in resources that have been accumulated in over time in America is great. You can't just like move into a new country, snap your fingers, and then all of a sudden your family's wealthy. It doesn't work that way. You have to work up from the bottom. You have to get education. You have to train your kids in order to compete with the other kids so that they can then rise up the social hierarchy. It doesn't have, you don't just like move to America and become a rocket scientist or a computer engineer. That's not the way it works. No, you move to America, you're probably poor, then you end up in a poor family, and then your children have to grow up poor. And if they don't try really hard and do very well, they're going to have equal or lesser education than their parents. If the parents had an education, they can teach their kids calculus and science to get them ahead, and then they'll be able to compete with the rest of the kids. But this doesn't happen overnight. So we've got a situation now where there's massive, huge pockets of Latinos in like cities like LA and all the big cities around the southern border. There's massive, huge pockets of Latinos, Mexicans, and they have taken lower wage jobs, and their children are now not able to live the American dream like everyone else because they're expected to do lawn maintenance. They aren't expected to go to school to be an engineer or a computer scientist. They're expected to be cheap labor for a white feminist or an ivory tower liberal because the Antifa ain't got no money. So in order to get rid of the permanent underclass, we have to make sure the underclass is not growing. I know this is completely fucking obvious, right? But you can't just get rid of the entire underclass when it's growing by millions of people per year. In order to move the underclass into the lower middle class, you're going to have to restrict immigration, right? That means there's no possible way in hell that restricting immigration is a white supremacist thing, but they want you to think that, and that's because they rigged Wikipedia. And if you look up far right, most people have no idea what far right means. We already went over it once. I'm not going to go over it again. Farthest left is communism. Farthest right is Nazism. That's where it got its name. It's Flattest hierarchies on the left, steepest hierarchies on the right, farthest right, Nazism. And fascism is below that, or to the left of Nazism. But then they say far right, or on Wikipedia, they say far right politics, also referred to as extreme right or right-wing extremism, are politics further on the right of the left-right political spectrum than the standard political right, particularly in terms of extreme nationalism, nativism, ideologies, and authoritarian tendencies. So does that sound anything like what I just said? That on the farthest left is communism, the flattest hierarchies, and then on the right are the steepest hierarchies, and on the farthest right is Nazism, with fascism a little bit to the left? No, that's because Wikipedia is completely fake. It's completely rigged. There's no credibility to it. So it says historically used to describe the experiences of fascism and Nazism. Today, far-right politics includes neo-fascism, neo-Nazism, third position, the alt-right, white nationalism, and other ideologies or organizations that feature aspects of ultranationalist, chauvinistic, xenophobic, theocratic, racist, homophobic, anti-communist, or reactionary views. Like, this could be just about anybody. Anti-communist? So you mean like Democrats? Democrats are capitalist. What do they say anti-communism? It's a political movement and ideology opposed to communism. It's like Democrats, except for the cultural Marxist on the far left. Look, that's what they say when they say far left. Far left means communist and cultural Marxist. So they say, if you look in the news, and you really pay attention to the words they used to describe everything, they say the black looter moms and the Antifa Nazis are left leaning, and then they'll say everyone on the right is far right, and it's because it's like, you know, the slur when you call anybody a Nazi, you're like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Nazi means National Socialist. It means you're an anti-capitalist. You cannot be a Nazi and a capitalist at the same time. The two things are mutually exclusive. The other problem with this is they say that theocracies are far right. But you got a problem with this. Israel is a theocracy. Israel is a Jewish state. The Jews were the victim of the Holocaust. So they have now officially put the Jews in the far right pile with the Nazis. This is not possible. It's completely fake. You can't do that. But when you control Wikipedia, when you've gamed Wikipedia with your networks of foreign assets, like the Chinese Nazi Party and the Russian FSS and the Islamic extremist groups, and there's also there are government spies that are Wikipedia admin, and if you donate to this show, it will fund WikiSpy, a tool to monitor Wiki-like sites for tampering by hostile agents and political actors. I have a really cool AI algorithm I am going to reveal sometime in the next few weeks that is going to allow you to generate flashcards that give you a psychological profile of the authors, and will show you histograms of what articles they've contributed to, and will give you a business model canvas that shows you their business model. And we're going to show you whether or not they're a Chinese agent, show you what through the histogram and their contribute log and what articles they focused on. It will actually show you a lot of stuff. It will give you a complete reverse analysis of their psychology. And you'll see that some of these accounts on the Wikipedia admin are active 24/7. They're 365. Like, some of these people are obviously spies that work for foreign governments, because no one would be able to do that. You would require an office full of people to actually do that. So so we're talking about Richard Spenser. talked quite at length about this. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit rambly. I think I've covered actually this entire article. Let's see. I just want to make sure I hit all the points. We got Spenser switched to endorsing Democrats because Democrats started KKK and Nazis were leftist. And so Richard Spenser is a neo-Nazi, and he then is going to support the leftist because the leftists are the cultural Marxist who are the you go from a progression into National Socialism from leftist beliefs. So you don't start out as a Nazi. You end up as a Nazi. You start out as somebody obsessed with fairness and equality and the elimination of the 1%. And then when people don't give you what you want, then you turn into a Nazi because communism is a big fail. China allows private property ownership. Obviously, they're not doing well without private property ownership. Obviously, they have to use private property ownership to be able to compete in our economy. But this presents a problem. Now they have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese outside in the countryside. Got millions of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps or re-education camps. Then you have filthy, stinking rich Chinese in the cities. The people out in the countryside will raise the kids and send them to the cities to make money to send back to the countryside. It's like the countryside is a baby factory out there. They have an authoritarian dictator who looks just like Winnie the Pooh. He's called Zinni the Pooh, Xi Jinping, the Ding-a-ling. And they are attempting to be the world's #1 superpower. They allow private property ownership, and this makes them National Socialists. Textbook National Socialists. There is no other definition of National Socialism other than you're competing for the top slot, the hierarchy. In the hierarchy, there's a steep hierarchy. You allow private property ownership, and you're socialist. That's National Socialism. That's the textbook definition of National Socialism. And that's what the Chinese government is. The Democrats are on the side of the Chinese government. They are not, absolutely not on the side of the American people. Not in any way, shape, or form are they. The Democrats are a pawn of the Chinese Nazi Party. They do anything the Chinese Nazi Party want them to, just about. And so this is why Richard Spenser left the right and went back to the left.